I guess, is how the stocks have lagged. And you can look at that as a disappointment if you're already levered up, or you can look at it as an opportunity in the shopping. What are your opinions on that, on gold now going into a possible recession? And then what should you wait to accumulate gold stocks? Because they are stocks and they might go down significantly more in a recession.
Quickly, I don't think the gold stocks go down because we go into a recession. But let's pull back. You said possible recession. The mainstream view is still a soft landing. And a soft landing is a recession. This is worth stressing. There's a lot of talking heads on financial media now that it seemed to me are making an almost deliberately concerted effort to smear the distinction between soft landing and no landing. There's people talking about, oh, no recession, soft landing. That's incorrect. Any landing that, that means the economy comes down, and the soft landing means it just doesn't do so much harm. So it's not just, crazy anarchist contrarians like me who are saying that we're still looking at a recession. The mainstream view is actually still for recession. And if you look at the guidance that the companies that are getting pummeled on Wall Street, and some of them are not, we're looking at all-time highs in the S&P 500 last week. But
So
when a company gets back down, it's usually not for the actual performance that quarter. It's for the guidance.
Right.
And the guidance on so many of these, and particularly bellwethers like FedEx a while ago, they got really hammered for their downbeat guidance, and Intel and, Apple just recently.
Yeah.
It's not about having beat, adjusted earnings forecast. It's about the guidance and what the industries that are plugged into the global economy and the US economy are telling us is that recessionary, or at least weakening economic outlooks, are the mainstream view. So historically, gold does really well in a recession. And if, the long-standing, tired, and really ridiculous trope, but it's still out there, it's still part of how mainstream views it, that gold doesn't pay interest, right? That's one reason why gold is seen as varying inversely with interest rates, because it doesn't pay anything. Like, okay, it's relatively safe perhaps, but it doesn't pay interest. I can get a bond that pays me interest. Well, if interest rates are going to cut, that's bullish for gold. Historically, recessions are bullish for gold. Fear, uncertainty, recession, even if it's a soft landing, is not a comfortable time. And that creates safe haven demand for gold. So that macro outlook, and not just me, the crazy, anarchist, Doug Casey disciple, madman, the mainstream view is for a recession, which is bullish for gold. Now, we have a unique circumstance going into that, in that nobody can really present you with a formula showing exactly what this has done, and here's the numbers. But I think it's pretty clear to all of us observing this that the central bank gold buying on record levels, except in major Western countries, has held up the price of gold. I think that's important in two ways, because you said gold has done its job. Well, our other friend, Adrian Day, has actually said that the gold stocks in a way are more realistic. They've looked at higher rates. They've looked at the stronger dollar. They've looked at the apparent victory of team soft landing and so on. And these things should have been bad for gold. So the gold stocks have been reflecting that, as well as, cost overruns and inflation in the industry and operating problems. Whereas gold has remained higher than it should have. And the obvious and easy explanation for that is central bank gold buying. Like, absent that central bank gold buying at record levels, we might see the gold dollar exchange ratio right now considerably lower. And it would make sense given the higher, at least as government reported, real interest rates. Right. So to the people who are complaining that gold isn't higher, it's all rigged, I understand your pain, but really, gold has done extraordinarily well to be holding on plus or minus 1900, 2000 for 3 going on 4 years now. Right. That's major. And a really important point here is that, recency bias is a real thing. The last time gold spiked up to 1900, it was brief. It traded sideways for a little while and down, and then it fell off a cliff and couldn't get up for 5 years. That's the most recent experience. And the one before that was the spike in 1980 that led to an even longer nuclear winter. So not gold bugs, not hard money advocates, but mainstream investors, comics traders and LME types, people in the mainstream, to the extent that anybody thinks about gold at all, basically all of their relevant experience says that it comes down sharply after a big rise. And that mapping, I think, is incorrect. I mean, objectively, right? The spike in 2020, here we are in 2024, we're catching up on 4 years now. That's not a spike. I think that's a plateau. A technician might say that was a shoulder before the next head. I'm not a TA, but I do think we've been consolidating here, getting ready, building for the next leg up, not the next leg down. Now, sorry, I've gone on at length, but to answer the question about the gold stocks, if I'm right about this and all the stuff about the recession, all the bullish case for gold, if I'm right about that, and others I'm sure you've talked to, then gold's headed higher. And the people who have been, selling off the gold stocks and that alligator jaw opening in the chart of the gold stocks going down while gold is holding or even marginally going up, I think that chart snaps shut with the gold stock catching up. And I think that happens this year. And I'm personally advocating more funds to bet on that. Now, if I'm wrong, gold, it's hard for me to see many scenarios in which gold craters and really comes down strongly, especially with the central bank buying, but also with the Fed cutting rates, all these things going on. So if I'm wrong, I think the odds are that I wouldn't be disastrously wrong. And I have a hedge in my portfolio with that other yellow metal, which I guess you're probably going to ask about.